The sun blazed mercilessly over the dry Wyoming plains as dust swirled in the wake of the departing wagon train. Silence followed, deafening and absolute. Lying in the dust, bruised and broken, was a young woman in a torn calico dress, her bonnet hanging by a thread. Her name was Clara, and she had just been left behind by the only family she had known for the past year. Cast off like forgotten luggage, she pressed her hands to her ribs, wincing. Her eyes burned, not just from the grit in the wind, but from betrayal. The wagon master, and even the man who once promised her love, had made their decision. After falling ill with a fever and slowing down the party, she had been deemed a burden. There had been whispers, glances, and then one morning, she awoke to find the wagons gone. No note. No food. Just absence. As the hours dragged and the sun dipped low, Clara struggled to sit up, fear knotting her chest. Coyotes howled in the distance. She was too weak to cry, too hurt to pray. That's when the thunder of hooves broke the stillness. A lone figure appeared at the horizon, his silhouette framed by golden light. A cowboy on horseback. He was tall, weathered, and wore a hat pulled low over kind eyes. He slowed his horse as he approached, taking in the sight of her frail body crumpled in the dust. Without a word, he dismounted, knelt beside her, and offered a canteen of water. Clara hesitated, then drank with trembling hands. "You hurt bad?" he asked, voice low and calm. "My ribs," she whispered. "I think one's broke. They left me." He didn't ask why. Didn't demand to know what she'd done. He saw the bruises, the fatigue, the sunburned skin, and that was enough. Gently, he lifted her into his arms, the leather of his vest cool against her skin. She clutched his shirt, too tired to protest. He carried her to his camp nestled in a shallow canyon not far off, shaded by cottonwoods. It wasn't much, a canvas tent, a fire pit, a lean-to for his horse. But it was warm and smelled of coffee and clean air. He laid her on a bedroll, wrapped her in a blanket, and knelt to tend her wounds with soft hands and a steady heart. "I'm Eli," he said as he stirred beans over the fire. "You just rest, Mississippi." "Clara," she murmured. Eli nodded once, as if memorizing her name. Days passed. Clara drifted in and out of sleep as the fever gripped her, but Eli never left her side. He cooled her brow with river water, fed her broth, read old pages from a tattered Bible by firelight. There was no judgment in his tone, no curiosity about her past. Just presence. One evening, as the sky turned purple with dusk, Clara woke to find Eli sitting quietly by the fire, his head bowed. "Why are you doing this?" she asked, voice rasping. "You don't even know me." He looked up. "You were left behind. No one deserves that." Clara blinked, tears welling. "Most folks would have left me too." Eli shrugged. "I'm not most folks." As her strength returned, so did her spirit. She learned to feed the fire, to brush down the horse, to cook with what little Eli had. He taught her to shoot a rifle, just in case, he said. They laughed together, shared stories over black coffee. Slowly, the pain in her chest began to fade, not just from the broken rib, but from the deeper wounds, abandonment, worthlessness, shame. Then, one day, as they sat watching the sun dip below the hills, a shadow crossed the fire. A rider approached. Clara's heart raced, her eyes recognized the man even before he spoke. "Haven't seen a lady round these parts," the rider said with a sneer. It was Thomas. The same man who had left her to die. Eli stood. "She ain't lost. She's here because she wants to be." Thomas chuckled. "She was mine, Cowboy. And she left us." "I didn't leave," Clara said, rising on shaking legs. "You did." Thomas dismounted, eyes narrowing. "You belong to me." Eli stepped forward, hand resting on his holster. Not in threat, but in quiet warning. No, she don't. She never did. For a tense moment, the only sound was the crackle of the fire. Then Thomas turned, spat in the dust, and rode away. Clara collapsed into Eli's arms, shaking. You could have been hurt. He looked into her eyes. You're worth it. That night, under a blanket of stars, Clara felt something she hadn't in a long time, safe. Not just from danger, but from judgment. From loneliness. From the lie that she wasn't enough. Weeks turned to months. Clara grew strong. She wore pants now, chopped wood, hunted rabbits, and sewed new clothes from old sacks. She and Eli built a real shelter together, planted vegetables by the stream, and painted dreams in the sky. They didn't need much, just each other, and the quiet understanding that something sacred had bloomed between two broken people. One morning, as they stood watching the sunrise, Eli turned to her, his voice thick with emotion. I ain't much of a man of words. But I know what I feel when I see you. I don't want a life without you in it. Clara's eyes shimmered. I never thought I'd feel wanted again. He took her hand. You were never unwanted. Just unseen. She nodded, tears slipping down her cheeks. Then I'm glad you saw me. They didn't speak of marriage right away. There was no preacher for miles, no white dress or chapel. But in the quiet hush of dawn, they promised one another what mattered most, kindness, loyalty, and a love that healed. Years later, travelers would pass a quiet homestead near the canyon, where laughter echoed and sunflowers bloomed in wild abandon. They'd see a woman with bright eyes and wind-tangled hair riding beside a man with steady hands and a cowboy's soul. They didn't know the story behind them, how one had been left to die, and the other had given her life back. But the land knew. The wind knew. And perhaps that was enough. Because sometimes, the greatest rescue isn't from death, but from being forgotten. And the greatest love isn't declared with roses, but with firewood stacked quietly by the door, and hands held under the stars. In a world that often turns away, one act of compassion can change everything.